Democrats. Today is Tuesday. No, it's Wednesday. Wednesday, November 1st, and it's time for the Chair's Daily Live. Happy Wednesday. I'm having so much fun that I lost a day. So today is November 1st. Think about that. 10 months of this year are already gone, and the clock is ticking. As I told you yesterday, there's an election 13 days from now in a lot of places in the state. And if you didn't check yesterday, please go out and check and make sure that you are aware if you have an election on Tuesday the 14th, because there is an election coming up on Tuesday the 14th in a lot of places in the state. And it's one of those elections that people miss, that people aren't paying attention to, because it's not the governor and it's not the mayor, it's not the president, but it is equally important, right? It's more likely something that affects your daily life. So please go out to the Oklahoma State Election Board and check and see if you have an election coming up in the next 2 weeks. And then there are elections in December as well. That's why earlier this year, when people kept calling this an off year, I rejected that term. There are always elections happening. And we need to talk about it like there are always elections happening, and we need to stay engaged in following up with those. Make sure that we know who they are, that we're helping candidates, that we're advocating for causes, because there are always elections happening. So the other significant thing about today being November 1st, today is the first day of Native American Heritage Month. Regardless of how our governor is trying to hijack it and call it something else, today is the first day of Native American Heritage Month. So, and I think that right now there is a resurgence of all things Indigenous in Oklahoma. And so there are all kinds of ways that you can engage and learn more about Native American history, Native American contributions to our state and our country that are going on right now. Also, in Oklahoma, a lot of bills go into effect on November 1st. If there isn't an emergency order that says that it goes into effect the moment that the governor signs it, it typically goes into effect either on November 1st or January 1st of the next year. So typically we have tons and tons of bills that go into effect on November 1st. This year, it is more than 200 bills that go into effect today. I wrote down a couple of them just so we can talk about them. Casey Alert. I'm mentioning this because of what today is. The Casey Alert is sort of like the Silver Alert or the Amber Alert, but it's an alert for missing adult Indigenous folks, right? And you're wondering, why do they need a special? Do they need a special color? Do they need a special alert? They need a special alert because traditionally, Indigenous folks, not just in Oklahoma, but all over our country, fall through the cracks when they go missing because of all the different jurisdictions. They fall through the cracks at a rate that is higher than most any other population in our nation. And so there is a special alert so that folks are paying attention, and so that we lose less of our friends and neighbors because folks aren't looking for them in the way that they're looking for other folks. And I'll leave it at that. There's a new bill that extends the time that you can take without penalty to get your tag on a new car, right? So yesterday, you buy a brand new car, you had 30 days to get your tag. Well, you just did a down payment. You just upped your insurance, and now you got to pay for a tag. Well, now the legislature saw fit to give you 2 months without penalty to save up your money and buy your tag. That does not mean that you need to be riding around with that paper tag for 6 months. They've given you now 30 more days that you can get your tag without penalty. And I think the idea behind that is, let's give people an incentive. Let's say that we recognize what's going on. Let's give people an incentive to get their tags timely. Apparently, well, we know this, that in the last year, we had a lot of prison breaks, which is really weird. And so the legislature saw fit to come up with a thing called the Orange Alert. That's where they will notify people who live within 40 miles of a state prison that there's been an and it'll be an orange alert, the loud alerts that we get on our phones and on our TVs that there's been a prison break. So if you live within 40 miles of a prison, you know to lock your doors, stay in the house, bring in your dogs, all those kind of good things. Also around our cars, you can choose to register your car every 2 years, and then you don't have to worry about it. That's the thing that they put into place. Because now if you try to go pay even, well, before today, you couldn't even get your tag, pay for your tag 60 days in advance. They tell you it's too soon, you got to wait. This allows you to pay for it 2 years in advance. So that's a good thing. They finally, which I didn't know was a thing, now children who are victims of child abuse can apply for victim protective orders. That's a new thing, which is kind of a shame, but it's a new thing. So, and that's helpful. So we're taking care of our neighbors. And then finally, that I'm going to talk about today, because there were over 200. There's Senate Bill 404, which passed, which is the Oklahoma Religious Freedom Act. This is just a bill that is trying to allow for vouchers for private and charter schools to be able to happen. Because right now, well, before today, the law was we could not spend tax dollars on religious entities. And now they said, well, if it's a religious entity, they should be able to take state tax dollars. So that's a thing that happened. See this face? Not happy about it, but that is a bill that that is a law that goes into effect today. We'll see how that plays out. It's incredibly frustrating. You don't like the bill, let's change it even. I can't. Last thing I want to talk about, two things. One, Oklahoma ranks number 2. We rank number 2. We're tied with a county in Ohio and a county in Pennsylvania, but we're tied for number 2 for the number of exonerated people who have been accused of capital crimes who have been exonerated. So Cook County, Illinois is number 1, and we're tied at number 2 with a number of people who are charged with murder, who through the judicial process somehow it turns out that they are not guilty, and they're getting out of jail, getting out of prison. We're tied for number 2. Why is that important? Because the governor keeps issuing orders to continue to execute folks, to accelerate the execution, so that we are executing someone, once a month. If we live in a place where folks are regularly being exonerated, regularly being released from prison because of DNA evidence, because of misconduct by the court system or law enforcement, because they a false confession, these people are set to be executed. But then we find out through DNA, or we find out because someone is so corrupt that they keep doing it and they get caught. How many people are we at risk for executing who are innocent? I do think it's something we need to visit, and we need to have the conversation. It's an uncomfortable conversation. It's an annoying conversation. But I think we need to have a conversation about how many people in Oklahoma sit on death row or have life sentences that then it turns out that they're going to be exonerated. How many of those people are at risk of being executed? I don't know. I think it's worth talking about. And then finally, with Medicaid expansion, one of the important things about Medicaid expansion was, number one, over 200,000 more Oklahomans were able to get insured, were able to have health coverage. That's the number one thing. But the second thing is we brought our taxpayer dollars back to Oklahoma, right? Our taxpayer dollars where we were paying into our taxes, were being spread out in other states who had taken Medicaid expansion. And when we took Medicaid expansion, those tax dollars came back to our state. Now we have tax dollars, Oklahoma tax dollars, that are now going to Missouri for family planning because we have arcane reproductive rights laws. And so money that we're paying in, we don't get the benefit of. Missouri gets the benefit of because we can't even have conversations about birth control. There are a lot of things in our state that need to be revamped. A lot of things in our state that need to be discussed, and we need new laws. But the only way that these common sense laws are going to happen is if we elect more Democrats. We bring some balance to Oklahoma City. So if you're thinking about running or you know somebody, please reach out. Please reach out. We need to attack the majority, frankly. We need to whittle down the majority so that they have to think about the big picture and not just get behind closed doors and decide what they want. They have to think about all of us in Oklahoma. We have to attack the majority. So if you haven't picked a candidate to support in the November election or December election or February election, it's not too late. Pick a candidate to support, knock some doors, make some phone calls, donate. Pick a candidate to support. We need to bring some balance into our elected positions in our state. All righty, guys, thanks for joining me. I'll be back here tomorrow at 4:15. I hope you'll join me.